Hello and welcome. Today we're going to build the next ship in my modded ship series. And this one I decided to call the Tower. Um, this one was modeled off of well, not modeled off, originally inspired by a ship from the Star Wars series. I believe it was called the Ghost. I haven't actually watched it. I just saw cool pictures of spaceships online. I'm like, I think I can build something similar to that. Um, and this ended up being the result. The big thing that I wanted out of this ship was actually right back here in the rear. If we run around to the back of this ship, we can see the engine layout. Which, okay, maybe we can't see it because of the shadows, but we'll see it more later. But the key part is having two engines up top, and then on the center line, an additional two engines. So after I got that part down, I just kind of built the rest of the ship out to kind of build around that design. So let's go ahead, start with a tour, then I will show you how to build this ship. I will note you do need mods to build this ship. I'm using better ship part flips, better ship part snaps, and the what's it called? Play stores yourself, though you don't really need that one for this particular ship. And then finally, there's a couple supporting mods that I need to enable the better ship part flips and snaps, which you can find all that information down in the description below. So to start off with, we are entering into, this is, I believe, the Tayo control station. No, might be Stroud. But you can see we have the landing bay axis right here. We have the docking axis right here. So this is the central point of access for this ship. We have a single ladder going up, and then we have a few more habs that we can look at. So first up, one level, we have a Tayo 2x1 all-in-one. And then up top, we have a Tayo 2x2 all-in-one. And then finally, we have the Tayo 2x1 captain's quarters. So this gives the ship a total of 9 beds, and you can get a reasonable crew capacity. Finally, we have the Phobos cockpit right here, which there is a small amount of clipping that I'm not overly happy with right here, but I couldn't come up with a convincing way to get rid of that clipping and still make the outside look how I wanted it to. So I'm just going to have to live with it. And that is the interior tour of this tower. Now, when I was designing this ship and just kind of looking up the brief amount of lore from the Star Wars ship equivalent, I found that the Star Wars ship was a bulk freighter. Uh, well, I guess not bulk, but a light freighter. So here you can see what I was referring to with the engine layout. And with that, it made sense to go ahead and build this entirely as a civilian-based ship. So I made this as a Class A ship, so anybody can fly it, and it requires 0 ranks of starship design. So anybody can go ahead and build this ship, provided that they have the correct mods. So, how are we going to build this ship? Well, normally I would go ahead and delete everything and then rebuild it from scratch. However, I'm going to keep this as a reference to start with, and we are going to start by building this engine assembly here. So, to get that, we are going to come on over here to the Structural tab, and we are going to start with our... Actually, let's go ahead and start with the Deimos cowling, aft bottom. So this is going to be the base of this entire contraption. Then we are going to go ahead and start with our new favorite piece of tech, the Nova Mini Bracer. So the Nova Mini Bracer, you can see, is basically the Nova Bracer, but it's been shrunk down. You will note that if I have that connected to the middle portion here, I can go ahead and pull these pieces out around it, and it extends halfway off the front, halfway off the back, and halfway off of each of the sides. So effectively, I could go ahead and use this to kind of do a half set offset for the entire ship. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and make a small tower of these mini bracers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I need a total of 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and form the side. So again, using the better ship part flips, we can go ahead and move this Deimos cowling until we have it on its side like this. And then copy it, flip, and we can basically just keep going on up. And that one is slightly too tall. Yeah, okay. So then I'm going to flip it. Nope, okay. I do need one more. There we go. So now that we have all of this in place, our next step is going to be going ahead and getting the engines in place. So for that, I am going to go ahead and start by moving these mini braces. And then I'm going to come on over to my Engines tab. And I'm going to come on down and select the White Dwarf 1020 engines. And I am going to place 2 of them like so. And that is 1 mini brace too high for this. Okay, yep. And I'm going to need to merge this one down in. Okay, and then I'm going to copy the engines again. Alright, so this is now all attached. However, it is not all attached to each other yet. So I now need to go ahead and duplicate these mini bracers on down. And the fun part is that sometimes it just decides to lose it. Okay, and now that that's all in place, let me pull this one back off. And then I can fit that back in, and then duplicate that back on down. There we go. Now then, the next thing that I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to delete this one, flip this into place, and then duplicate upwards. All right, and now this whole assembly is together, and I just need to go ahead and duplicate the Deimos cowlings onto the other side. So there is this little gap here where it's not quite filled out. There's not really a whole lot we can do about that other than live with it. I'm sure somebody else could go ahead and use their talents to try and figure out another way of getting that to work, but I couldn't. But things that you learn while you are experimenting with new mods. And there we have it. So that is the engine assembly. Now, from here, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my Docker, and I'm using the 100 DP Docker, and I am flipping this upside down, and I am attaching it right here to the bottom of this Deimos cowling. Then, in front of that, I'm going to go ahead and grab my 120 LD landing bay from Deimos, and that is going to go ahead and form the base of this. And now all this is connected. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and select all this and delete it. And then right here, I'm going to go ahead and select my HABs. So to start off with, okay, it looks like I used a Deimos one here. So we are going to start off with the Deimos control station. Then on top of the Deimos control station, I'm going to come on down to the Taio 2x1 mid and place that right there. Then I'm going to come on down to the Taio 2x2 all-in-one mid. And then I'm going to duplicate this Taio berth and select the captain's quarters. But wait, I need to go back and do something here. I need to pull off these three because I need to place my doors and ladders. Now, with the Place Doors Yourself mod, the connection here for the landing bay into the hab, the connection for the docker, and the connection for the cockpit are all fixed. You do not need to go ahead and do a Place your Doors Yourself there. But to get from hab to hab, we do need to go ahead and place our doors and ladders. So I'm going to come all the way on up here, and I'm going to select a ladder. Then I'm going to go ahead and put that 2x1 back, and then I'm going to go ahead and select a ladder. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the 2x2 back. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and select a door. You can do whatever door you want. I just grabbed the first one here. And there you have it. That is the hab shape. Next up, we're going to go ahead and grab the cockpit. So here I use the DS 20.2 Phobos because the 20.3 requires Starship design, and I decided to make this something that anybody can build and run. So we're going to go ahead and stick our Phobos cockpit in right there. And then we're going to ask ourselves what else we need. So let's go ahead right here, and I'm going to come back on over to the structural tab. And we're going to scroll on down until we get to the Stroud braking engines. And we're going to put a pair of braking engines on right underneath the cockpit. Just like so. All right. So what's next? Let's go ahead and grab our landing gear. So for this ship, I ended up using 4 NG-15 landing gear. And they are just all attached to the control station hab down here at the bottom. Nothing particularly special going on right there. Alright, so we have our engine assembly, and we have our habs. We still need to go ahead and get our reactor and our grav drive. So for these, I decided to go ahead and hide them under some of my sloping. So since I'm using Class A ship, I am going to go ahead and use a Class A reactor. I'm going to place it right under here. And for this one, I'm using the 134mm just because it provides 20 power, and that's the best you can get with that Starship design. If you are using, or if you have Starship design or higher ranked, get a better reactor. On this side, I'm going to go ahead and grab my grav drive. Here I just grabbed the R3000 because that gives us the most grav jump thrust without needing Starship design. Alright, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hide these. So I need to come back on over here to the structural tab, scroll all the way on down until I get to Stroud, and I'm going to grab the Stroud 2B. So this one is now flippable. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the side, and we're going to then flip this into place. And then we're going to grab the other side, and then we're going to flip this into place. And you can see there's a slight amount of the reactor and the grav drive visible, but for the most part it is hidden. Now if you wanted to, you could also go ahead and hide, say, like some cargo right here, or your fuel, but I hid that somewhere else on this ship. Alright, so now we need to go ahead and we need to start smoothing out these lines some. So we are going to start by coming on over here to the Stroud Cap A's. And I need a total of 4 of these. And now I need to change the variance till I get to the one that connects right here. Just like so. And then repeat on this side. There we go. Alright, next up, it is time to go ahead and add some additional structural pieces. So for this, I'm going to come on over here until I get to the Stroud and nose cap Ds. So these are the ones that have the weapon mount on the side. They don't extend out the full range of the cap A's. And I'm going to get 4 of these. And then once again, I'm going to change the variant until I get to the one that I want. There we go. And I ended up choosing the cap Ds partly because it fits in better with the Hope Tech caps that go on top, and also so that way on the back here it's not sticking out quite as far into the engine. But if you wanted to go ahead and use the cap Cs, which follow the lines of this a little bit better, you could. All right, we have that in place. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to grab our fuel and our shield. Oh, we've got unattached modules where I see. There. So let's come on over to my shield. And here I am using the deflector SG30. And you can see we just need to change the variant here to go ahead and get it to attach to this side. Again, with the better ship part flips and snaps, it's wanted to move around a lot more. And then on this side, I'm going to go ahead and grab my fuel. And here I'm just using a single Titan 550 HE3 tank, which just gets placed on right there. Then I'm going to come on over here to the cargo, and you'll see I'm using a pair of the Ballast 200 cm cargos. Placed like so. Now, we're going to go ahead and hide these. So let's come back on over to our structural tab. We're going to come on down to the Nova, and we're going to grab the Nova side cowlings. And here, I'm going to go to the mid variation, and you notice that when I flip it, it flips on over to each side. So I need a total of 4 of these. They're going to get flipped in over the fuel and cargo, and they're just basically going to fill out this little side section here. And yes, I'm not overly happy with this little gap that's right here, but I couldn't figure out a nice way to fill that in. So I decided to, ignore it. Then it's time to go ahead and cover the top. So here I'm going to go ahead and grab the Hope Tech caps. And you will see. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. We have our caps lining across up here, and then we're going to go to the mids. And then the rears. And there we have it. The top is fully capped off. Then finally, we need to apply our weapons. So again, this is going to be kind of more of a light ship for civilian use. So I decided to just go ahead and stick on 4 of the Disruptor 3300s. And they fit in quite nicely right down here. But as you can see, there are plenty of weapon spaces down here or up top, so it's really just wherever you want to stick things. Alrighty, and that is the tower. Completely built. Alright. So, finally, colors. Since I forgot to put them into start, I just went with a kind of dark gray, and then a dark red for all of the rear components here. So since this is not really designed as a fighting vessel, I'm not going to worry too much about combat, but we will still go ahead, take off, take a couple pictures. And because we do still have 4 of those White Dwarf 1020s, our mobility actually isn't that bad. However, I am not overly confident in this ship's capabilities for flying on extreme difficulty on New Game Plus 3. Now, if you are at a lower difficulty, though, I am fairly sure that the ship will perform quite well. Let's get a nice underbelly shot. And then I will go see how it holds up to a little bit of combat. So let's pop on out to Serpentis. And while we wait for somebody to show up, we'll just take a quick look at the ship's stats. So again, this is designed as an early game ship, but you can see that we still do have, reasonable jump range and cargo capacity. And if I remember right, before we left the builder, we were around like 88 or so mobility. So if you do engage in combat, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you can get some range. And then we want to go ahead and get range and just outrange our opponents while we fly backwards. And you can see he is trying to boost towards us sometimes. And we're just doing the standard Class A kiting. And I'm going to go ahead and let them get a little bit closer to me. Alright. Let's boost away from him a little bit. And we're going to slow down to about 150-ish. And he's boosting after us. We need to get our distance again. Okay, and we just let off our boost a little bit to slow down, so that way they might be able to catch up to us next time they boost. But These weapons have a range of 3,500, so they consistently at least plink at the shields up to about 4,000. I'm just going to slow down a little bit again. And wait for them to move back into range. So, not particularly entertaining combat, but, you know, we are still playing in Serpentis, and we are beating up a Veyruin Eulogy 3 on extreme difficulty. New game plus 3. So, you know, the ship can perform. Okay, we got their engines, so we need to go turn towards them a little bit. There we go. And using the kiting maneuver, we took no damage at all. And my cargo hold's full, so I can't take anything. Well, sucks to be me. Alright, so if you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed my new modded builds, and I will see you in the next one.